Testing, testing. Are you looking for a faster video? Well, today it's a live stream, and I know you're probably looking for a really nice and tidy, edited down video, but I have ways for you to make it faster. You can click that little gear on the YouTube settings right there on the video and adjust the playback speed, make me sound like a chipmunk, and it'll go a lot faster. You can also look and see if there's timestamps for this project in the description, and if you're on a desktop, you can hover over the time bar at the bottom of the screen and see if it's chunked up into chapters, and then that way you can go directly to the step you're looking for. And lastly, you can also tap on the screen on the right hand side of the video picture or on the left hand side to make the video jump ahead, forward or backward if you're on a mobile device. And you can adjust that amount in your settings so you can have complete control over how much it jumps. So if you are on a desktop, you can use the fast forward or the rewind, and that will make it go faster as well. You can also enable subtitles, and the little CC on the screen will enable closed captioning. That way, if I am a little bit harder to understand with that double playback speed, the subtitles might help you out. All right, well, I know that it's not a nice little edited video, but if you sew with me, we'll get there together and it'll be lots of fun. And now for the live stream. Happy sewing! Hello. I just realized I didn't adjust my face cam. How's it going? I'm just gonna zoom out a little bit because it's for the other side of the table. There we go. And make it straight. That looks okay. All right. How's it going? How's it going? Happy Saturday. Hi, Hannah. Hi, Terry. Hi, Lynn. Are we ready? This is kind of a big sewing day. Like, these are all the things that, yeah, we're finishing up with. And honestly, I could even finish today because, yeah, I mean, I think if I spend too much time on bound buttonholes, then I'll move the bag lining to next Saturday so we have one more sewing day. So, hi, Delwyn. How's it going? Let's see. So, first things first, maybe I should wait till a few folks get here. I wanted to show what happened with the back facing since I couldn't get it to match my shoulder seams here. So I was sewing it incorrectly. I don't know why I wasn't catching that in the instructions. Partly when you're reading instructions live on camera, you're not reading them and comprehending them maybe as good as I could. But at the same time, I think the way it was worded made me think it was still sewn the way it was on the front because it said enclose the edge. And I just thought it meant you sew the binding and then you turn it under, which encloses the edge. And because sometimes people use language that means, you know, lots of different things. So, but it was just supposed to be bound. And that's the funny thing, because if you spent any time here, you know how much I love binding and you know how often I use it. And I'll use it even when I'm not supposed to. And I'll use it at any chance that you give me because I love using binding. So mine, I fixed it, but I didn't learn that I did it incorrectly until after I had fixed it. So it's not sewn correctly. This would normally just be a bias bound edge. But it does, you know, this will work. It's just not sewn how it was supposed to. So the pattern pieces were fine, just so you all know. And the way you would have done it was just bind this edge and then you top stitch it down. So it would have lined up with the edge. So sorry if I, you know, took you guys down the wrong path. So, but I love how this looks, and I will admit, like, the binding I had was kind of narrow, it would have worked. I could have made it work for sure. I also don't bind the way most people do. I never bind from the right side to the wrong side. I always bind from the wrong side to the right side so it looks good, and I can guarantee it's going to look good, especially when the wrong side's not even going to show, like it's going to be inside the lining, right? So that's another thing, is that I forget that not everybody, I don't think I know anybody who sews it like that. I occasionally run across it, so yeah. Anyway, so only thing I've done off camera is that I fixed this right here. So I recut this piece and then sewed it the same way as the front, like I was trying. And the only other thing I did was I kind of went over my seams and like pressed them open, you know, did kind of just touched up all my ironing, especially along the collar since I'm about to sew that. And right here at the center back neck, I didn't open you're supposed to open the seam up of the neckline to the collar, and I didn't do that right here at the center because of my label. I need the seam to push up, otherwise what happens is the label is going to flip up. So if you haven't sewn your label on and your little neck loop, you might consider putting that maybe lower down. I just don't like things pulling from the middle of a facing, so that's just me. And you know, there are you know, like you sometimes see loops right here. It's not like you're going to hang your blazer always on a loop, you know. You might just hang it up by the neck, right? So you can do it a few different ways. All right, so I went over a few different bound buttonhole tutorials. When I read that, I was like, oh yeah, I don't think I've ever sewn one of these. Like I thought I had sewn one or two for this one project and for a school project. And when I looked at those instructions, I was like, no, I don't think I've done this. So this is brand new to me. I didn't practice. So you're gonna just watch me do this and figure this out. And yeah, I'm probably not going to be the expert in this. I just saw a thread, but it wasn't attached. Okay. So I made myself a few pieces of fused fabric so that it's a lot like what I'm going to be doing my bound buttonhole on. I'm going to be doing 2, and I just need to decide on my buttons so then I can practice. So I'm going to put this aside. Oh, actually, let's look at my button choices here on my blazer. Why is the camera all higgledy-piggledy? I was really liking the angle of it earlier. At least it's not too pink. This turquoise really makes everything pink. Let's see here. I think this is everything. All right. These are the buttons I thought could go the best. So I have this. These are from an old sweater. You know, I mean, I'm going for this larger size. I have these pink, which matches my lining really nice. Hi, Terry. How's it going? But, you know, there's no reference to on the outside of the garment of why I would have pink buttons. So it would kind of limit what I could wear it with, but I still like those. Oh, and I have these antique buttons. They're glass. They're pretty interesting. They look kind of terrible on camera, but they would work. And then I have these kind of eccentric folk buttons. And then I think these are my favorite, but they are a little unconventional. And it's these hand-painted birds. I feel like my mom may have given me these as a gift, or someone gave these to me as a gift, or I bought them to be a gift for someone. Like, I feel like it was a souvenir buy because I know that they were pretty special. And they are hand-painted. They're hand-painted, but you don't feel the paint on there. And so, but how do I feel about a 2-hole buttonhole? Like, I feel like a blazer button is usually a shank, you know? So that's my only hesitation with these, is that they are just, you know, 2-hole buttons. Birds for sure. Yeah, I really like the birds too. Look at these buttonholes. They're kind of at an angle to the bird. See that? How about this one? This one's straight across. Yeah, I mean, this little guy, I think that this is a the kingfisher. I'm not sure. My husband's super into birds too, so I like the idea of that. All right, let's do the birds. I'm gonna put my buttons someplace else. I can't believe they got this far and I hadn't thought about the buttons. The kit I bought from Cashmerette does come with some simple tortoiseshell buttons that were kind of in a gray-black combo. They would have been fine, but they definitely weren't going to be as unique, you know what I mean? Yeah, oh yeah, I'll have to, Lynn. I'll definitely do that. Yeah. Yeah, and if you ever need a tutorial for something like that, I have one in my stories on Instagram on sewing a button with a shank. I've been doing that for ages. Once someone taught me how, I feel like it was the same person that taught me how to set in a sleeve, but I don't think so. I think I learned that when I worked at the alteration shop. If you ever want to up your sewing skills, work at an alteration shop. It's kind of a steep learning curve. Okay, so here are my scraps here. And I am putting my buttons up here. My roll line is like right here. It's not really rolling there on me though. It's more like this, you know? And the buttonhole placement on the pattern is more, it's like, I want to say it's about right here. About right here, and that's just too low and too far over for me, so I'm putting them a little bit higher. I also don't really want like a low V. I kind of want something a little tighter. So yeah. Oh yeah, they are, Terry. Yeah, I'm so glad they're not 4-hole, because 4-hole buttons they take so long. So yeah, you can machine sew buttons on a machine, but the problem with that is that there's not space between the button and the garment. And then you don't have the space for when you button your garment between the button and the garment, right? You don't have the space to put it there, and then it'll stretch your thread, and it stretches out your fabric, and it can rip your button off over time because it's so hard to push it through. You can put something underneath the button when you're sewing it, but that makes people really nervous, understandably, and the machine isn't that stable for that either. So I just do it by hand. It's the one thing I do hand sewing for sure. All right, so I have some contrast thread so I can draw my buttonholes on here, but I think I'll save that for my actual. I feel like I'm going to be doing this the whole stream. I'm just going to warn you. But I really want to bag my lining today, so we'll do our best to get through these. These don't look that hard. So I'm feeling like, because I'm feeling a little cocky about it, I'm not feeling cocky about it, but I feel like it looks like I'm feeling cocky about it, that I'm going to definitely shoot myself in the foot over this. So, yeah. So let's see. I'm going to cut these two apart. My fabric frays like crazy, so I definitely wanted to interface them. So I'm going to draw on my scrap fabric here. I'm going to just draw it on here. And let's see here. My button is pretty thin. If your button's really thick, make sure you add the thickness of your button. So this will be a good experiment if my buttonhole is the right length for these. I'm going to do a couple. And let's just draw a line across. I found a few interesting tutorials online. None of them said that they were the classic way to do it. Hi, Isha, how's it going? Which I found interesting because I couldn't find the classic way to do it. It's probably in one of my sewing manuals. Well, I only have one. Actually, I have a couple. I just realized that. Let's see. I have this one. I haven't looked at my books in so long. There might be one in here. I kind of am curious. This one was written by an instructor at my college. This isn't the one I got in college. I loaned mine out and I never got it back. So I rebought it because it is actually a pretty handy book. Oh, I think I just saw it. Line-bound buttonhole pockets. Oh, look at that. That's nice. Let's see. One-piece bound buttonhole pockets. That's interesting. They're bound buttonhole pockets, not welt pockets. Maybe it's just a terminology thing. I should have looked at this yesterday. I don't want a glossary. I want an index. I'm kind of curious because, you know, the stuff that's on the internet isn't always the best way to do it. Imagine that. They don't have it. That's interesting. They have hand-guided horizontal position, vertical flat position of and shank for under buttons and buttonholes. Bound welt pockets, bound flat pockets. That's interesting. All right, so maybe not, but this book is pretty interesting too, this fine machine sewing. Oh, that's cool, Terry. I looked at the Threads site, Threads magazine site. I don't know if it's even in here, but we'll see. No, there's corded, which is kind of nice. I'm gonna look under welt, just in case people use different terminology. Oh, there's no W's. There's no welt anything in here. I love this kind of stitching. I think you have to use a butterfly needle for this. Oh, wing needle, that's what it's called. It's a wing needle and a simple zigzag. You can do, you know, into certain like open weave fabrics, linens and things. Love stuff like that. I mean, you can literally change what your fabric looks like, you know? Let's put this there. All right, so I want my buttonhole to be, I think it's 3/8 of an inch wide, right? All right. I'm going to, on my jacket, I'm actually going to use thread to do all this. Maybe I should have done that off camera, huh? Maybe I won't. We'll see. I'm also cheating using the Crayola marker, and maybe I shouldn't because I'm not going to use this on my jacket. I'm not going to take a chance like that. Let's see if my you probably can't see it, but I can. I like these. It's just a, what's this called? It's not called a, what's this thing called again? I know more than one of you has one of these. I want to say a boning thing, but I don't think that's what it's called. What is this thing called? But it is a marking tool. It just makes a crease in my fabric, kind of changes it, but it doesn't change it permanently. You can see it on camera though. You see that? Some fabrics it works even better. A bone folder. Okay, so I knew there was something about a bone. Because I think they originally used to be made out of bone. This one's not. It's plastic. I think this could be a little wider. I love this little ruler, but I wish there were 1/8 marked on all edges. Or all spots, not just the hatches. Okay. I could even just try contrast thread, but I'm a little scared to do that. I should probably pull up the tutorial so I remember I don't skip anything. All right, so I'm gonna just, I can't even see this. This is hilarious. I don't know why I just spent all that time marking it. This is what I'm doing. This is why I'm learning this. This is why you want to use thread. Okay. I'm gonna do this so I can see it on the other side. Sometimes you got to do things that you know won't work so that you make sure you don't do them on your final thing, you know? Some folks put the pocket on the fold as well. I mean, on the bias. Here, yeah, this is called the Hera marker by Clover. That is the name if you're trying to buy one. This is the name of this product, and it's by Clover. Burnisher. I haven't heard that one. This is just my, I'm already doing this wrong, aren't I? I should have looked at the instructions again. I just need to do this, you guys, so that even though I know I'm doing it wrong, I'm just going to do it real quick and then I'm going to do it better. It's always worth practicing. It seems so obvious and straightforward when I watched a few tutorials, and now I'm like, well, wait, what was so obvious about that? Because now I'm questioning everything. This fat canvas is so stiff, you guys. I'm a little worried about doing the bound buttonholes with it. I'll be way more careful on my jacket, I promise. And I'll use a smaller piece. I just need to rush through one and then spend time doing it better. I feel like when I was doing the cargo pockets the back welt pockets on the cargo shorts and on the chino pants by Wardrobe by Me, I feel like one of you said, this is the one I actually stitched past and I shouldn't have. This reminds me of a bound buttonhole, right? One of you said that, and now I know why, because it is kind of the same way. And so now I'm going to press this up, right? And then this gets pressed down, and you press that up, and that gets pressed down. Right? And then I have to understand the physics first. And then I would turn this, stitch across, pull this up. So I definitely want, I think, a wider buttonhole because my canvas is so thick, but I know I probably shouldn't do that either. All right, so if that was my buttonhole, would my button go through? Now that feels a little too big. Okay, so let's do the buttonhole a little bit narrower. All right. All right, where's my, hi, Ray. They only have a machine. Yeah. But on the sew along, there is a bound buttonhole. I just started, Janice. At 11. Yeah, there is on the sew along on their blog. It's not very detailed, but it is accurate. Like, I think that really what it would make you do is go, all right, I'm just going to look for a tutorial, and this is a good reminder. Hello, Angela, how's it going? Let's pull it up. I'll put a link to it. How's that? I had all these up, and then I lost them. I think what I don't like about sewing these, where's the video? Okay, well here is one to a step-by-step picture version. All of you, of course, can search for this too. But I'll give it to you right there in the chat. And here we go. Do I, Janice? Who would come? I know. I mean, I understand what you're saying. Like, I understand. Like, I would like to do that. That would be awesome. What, did I just really lose? Let's see. Let me copy that down. And I'll finish my thought. Okay. No, I don't want that. I want this. I'm gonna look. I didn't see this blog post. Center front, buttonhole ends. Yeah. Okay. Okay, it looks like they sew it differently in the blog post, which is kind of interesting. They kind of make the welts first. Oh, okay, Libby. I think that we've talked about this. Location is obviously an issue. So is the worldwide panini that's been happening, and having a topic. Like, what would I be doing there? You used to go to Stitches every year. Did you ever visit me? I mean, I recognize your name from orders for a long time, which is pretty awesome. Stitches was such an amazing event, and I think, like, had I not ever become a vendor, I would never have known about something like that, you know? So it is kind of interesting to think about, like, now I would consider going to something like that because I was a vendor there, and I'm like, this is kind of amazing. Like, you meet people that are passionate about what you do, and they're doing it in all different kinds of ways. So even if you're not interested in, like, going to vendors, there's all these classes and stuff like that, you know. So I would like to do this with a hand sewing stitch. So I'm gonna use this Hera line, and oh man, and do it that way. There we go. All right, so we have one line here. And then I want to do it a little smaller. So let's do another line here. I feel pretty confident about my bound buttonholes already, even though I just did that really bad sample. That's awesome. Love it. I think my next pattern is going to be the Quickie. I don't know if you ever got to see that one, because that was kind of a late design product. I don't even have one, funnily. Okay. I know this isn't the content you guys come here for. But I said that this blazer was definitely going to be one of those things where we all did together. I want this to be a little more accurate right there. Yeah, right there. And I think on this step here, the thing that makes me feel like I'm not going to do the best job is this part, is marking the buttonhole. Oops. Okay. See, this buttonhole is smaller than this one here. But look at how big that is. Too big. I mean, I know that once I have the welts in there, it's gonna feel tighter, right? It's not tight enough though. So I'm gonna make it smaller and we'll just see what happens. Okay. All right, let's sew this one. I'm doing such a bad job of even just thread marking right now. All right, I'm gonna make this a little smaller. And this one I'm gonna actually go through all the steps. There's a kind of a complicated way to figure out what size you want this to be. Hey Debbie, welcome. Really? I think that you guys are unique then, because I know, like, even just from watching gamers, there are people that only want to watch gamers who are good at what they do, right? And I think that's the same with sewing. And then there's people that watch streams because of someone's personality or because they're a goofball or an entertainer or whatever, you know what I mean? So I think there's lots of ways. But I think when it comes to sewing, most people are looking for someone who's really good at what they do. And I would not expect anything less from a viewer. Like, I think that would be it for me too. Although, I guess if I were to watch a sewing streamer, I'm not really looking for learning content at this stage. I would totally be down for someone who is an entertainer, you know? So there's that. All right, so I'm gonna lay this on here. I'm gonna sew from this side here. Oh, did I really do that? I did, yeah, okay. Let's move that out of the way. So one of the tutorials I saw, this Chinese tutorial, or a Chinese woman did this really great tutorial, and she does her welts on the bias. So that's another option, and I thought that was a really interesting take on it. And I didn't quite get the reasoning behind it, but you know, I think there's some. She was pretty, not insistent on it, but she was like, this is the way to do it, you know. So I think that there's some merit to figuring out if that would work for what you're doing. Yeah, no worries, Debbie. I don't really look at that, so don't worry about it. Ray. Thank you. I might have alerts turned off. Oh, no, I don't. It's okay. It'll happen. It'll happen. All right, so let's sew this. So thank you, Ray. What I don't like about the thread stitching, and the reason I kind of hesitate to do it, is because it's kind of hard to remove all the thread stitches because you're going to sew through it. You can't really avoid it. I'm going to dial back my stitch length because my canvas is so open. I'm not going to back stitch. This is definitely a good space or a good sewing thing not to back stitch on. And I say that because you really don't want to add to the bulk to these seams. I mean, y'all know I'm not an expert in sewing a welt, but I know a little bit about where you want certain things and where you don't. All right, so I just overlapped by a little bit. And this rectangle doesn't look straight on the other side. Do you see that? It's wider down here than it is here. I should have counted my stitches there. So I'm gonna straighten that out a little bit. It looks straight on this side, which is really annoying. So let's see here. I'm gonna count 2, 1, 2, right? 5. Okay. And then we're going to, welcome Robin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All tutorials say to do that. All right, so let's try this one now. So I'm gonna start my hole, and another thing that they say is making sure your line is straight. So this is the one space of doing a welt pocket type of thing that you're really gonna want to cut a straight line. I know I talk about in a lot of welts, like don't worry about getting the straight or getting your Y cuts straight, but on something like this you do, because these cuts are actually making the little welt. You want this line down the middle to be equidistant, in other words. Okay, my scissors are really sharp, so I'm kind of nervous. I'm gonna just do one layer at a time. My canvas is so gosh darn thready that I'm a little worried it'll go right through, you know. So I'm just gonna pick up each layer. I can't see my stitching on this side. I can feel it. Okay, so I'm just gonna look at my cut here. Can you see how thready my just checking. I wish I could see it better. All right. And now we'll go to the iron. Hey Megan, how's it going? If you use bias that you stretched, then your bound buttonhole won't stretch out over time or become a shape. Oh, interesting, Terry. I like that. I like that. I actually do feel like some of the tutorials that popped up were just regurgitated tutorials by other entities like Threads and probably Craftsy. So it's partly why I just kind of stuck to a couple. I don't have my phone over here, so let me warm that up and get my chat. Do you want me to zoom that in a little bit? All right, so I'm going to press this. I'm going to actually press it and see if I have a nice window here. That's just fluff. And it does look like I'm going to have a nice window. You really want those corners to look nice. Especially on this side. All right. All right. These are already kind of bugging me. All right, so that looks pretty good. We'll definitely, hopefully do a better job on the jacket. I'm trying to, I can't really see my corners very well because of this thread, pink thread over here. So I kind of want this one gone. But remember I backstitched a little bit. So I gotta remember, don't do that. It's just gonna make it harder to remove it. All right. I don't really want to immortalize these weird little pink threads. And I saw a few tutorials where they were, and someone said this is just the nature of it. And I was like, no, I don't want those on there. No, we're just not there yet, Ray. All right, so now we're gonna press this seam allowance like that. And we're going to fold this over the seam allowance. Doesn't seem like I have enough room, does it? My canvas is so thick, you guys. Makes me get really nervous about this. I feel like I need fingertips the size of a raccoon to do this. You need raccoon hands to do this. See those pink threads? I want them gone now. I can see this right here is concerning right here. I wasn't that careful, but still, I don't feel like I nicked my canvas. All right. So I really would like to interface my welt so that it prevents any fraying as far as this piece goes right here. But I'm kind of thinking that it's adding too much thickness. So maybe I should use my woven fusible rather than the weft, you know? Looks good from this side, but it doesn't look good on this side. Mainly because of that pink thread. And how wide it is. I mean, I don't know. The iron's doing hardly anything. Okay. Some tutorials have you do this where you just split the welt in half like this. You open up the seam. So let's try that. Maybe reducing the bulk right there. And then folding it over it like this. That might be a good solution. That looks pretty good from this side. It looks pretty good from this side, kind of, except for my pink thread and this little troublesome spot right here. All right, and then let's split this one and try it. Okay. All right, hole in this. There's some stitching that needs to happen still that I haven't done. I just wanted to fiddle with it before I did that part because I'm learning. Just so you know, I do know about that. Just I'm not there yet. See, I don't like how my welts are looking uneven every time, and it's because this one's getting pushed out of the way. And I need to close these too. Like, iron them closed. All right, it's coming along. Sometimes what I have to do is make it look the way I want it to look in the end, and then figure out what I need to do to achieve that. There's a couple of pattern designers we've sewn here that's how their patterns are assembled, and it's not the best way to assemble a pattern because you really should know how to do it from inside out. So now if I didn't have my pink thread there, and I didn't have that little boo-boo, would I like this or not? I don't know. I want this pink thread gone so I can kind of make a fair assessment. Let's see. Please. Please. Please cooperate. All right, let me see. So, note to self, don't be cavalier about the hand stitches I attach. Definitely keeping them in a contrast color is really helpful though, but it shows up. Okay. Sometimes I do stuff like this, it's a little obsessive because I'm thinking too, just so you know. It's kind of, for me, the equivalent of washing dishes, you know? So if something's bugging me in the world, I will wash dishes or something, because keeping my hands busy kind of lets my brain kind of relax and think things through. Let's just get those to the back and see. All right, so now if I were to do a couple of these other steps, one of them is to hand sew this opening shut, and then also sew across this triangle end here. Get these welts in about the right spot. I hope, if anything, even though I know I'm not expert at these, I hope one thing that you'll get from this is that it's really thick, yeah. Just because there's steps out there on how to do something, it doesn't mean you have to do it that way. So sometimes it's really good to kind of question some of the order in the steps because you might find something that works better. And I'm not questioning the order right now. I'm just trying to get through one. But it does kind of help me go, well, what will work best for my project? So look at that buttonhole is a lot smaller than my button. See that? But it works. And it doesn't work with any force or anything. So that is a good indication that I need kind of a smaller buttonhole. And the reason it works is because the width of the buttonhole is significant. You know, it's very wide. You know, look at that. You have a 3/8 inch opening. Even though I'm sewing across the ends, you still have a little bit of play in here. So, and my button is very, very thin. It's even uneven because it's shell. All right, so we've learned that our width needs to be that. So we also have learned that I'm probably going to have some issues in these corners here with my canvas. I'm trying to figure out what this is from right here because you guys saw me sew it. I didn't pull anything out right there. Is that purely my needle nicking it? Was it a flaw in the fabric? I want to make sure I prevent that. And then I'm also going to probably sew these together when I'm doing all this sewing so that it comes out good. All right, so I wish I could show the threads video on screen because that way we could kind of do it together. I'm going to play back part of this really quick. So what are you guys working on? How many of you have done bound buttonholes? And I'm totally open to backseat sewing and tips. Please never think you can't tell me your tips. All right, so we're gonna fast forward a little, Judith, because we really need some timestamps in this video. All right, it gets going about 3 minutes in. It's only a 6-minute video. Hi Walter, how's it going? What are you watching a tutorial on? What are you trying to learn? Or do you want to share? The fiddliness was unreal. She's cutting the welt. Hers is like in thin cotton, by the way. Cheater. I love you, Judith Newcomb, but cheater. No. I mean, you know, everything's great in that fabric that you test sewing machines on at the fabric store. Am I right? All right, so she sews it. Oh, the thread theory zipper fly. Yeah, that zipper fly, the way she does it is really interesting. She's actually one of the companies I was just thinking about, how the way she does things is she makes it so that it's going to be the way it looks at the very end, and then she has you sew it. And so what's great about that way is that it makes it kind of logical, and you can kind of see that what's going to happen when you're sewing it, and you know what you need to end up with, which is really great. I have sewn that a few times. Or no, I've only done it once, I think, on the Jutlands. Walter, if you need to look at that. But I did struggle a little bit with it, but I got it. Oh, nice, Aisha. That sounds nice. Oh, you got the laggin'? Nice. She's having a sale right now. Oh, cool, Ray. That's such a good exercise. I love that. I've done that too. All right, so let's try one more of these with woven interfacing. Let me get some of that little piece here. I think that'll make it a little bit thinner. Maybe I'll just use the tricot. That'll work. Oh, here's some of the woven. Let's do the woven. Okay. This is woven interfacing, and then this is that tricot. Let's do a little bit. Here. Could probably just fuse this whole piece, and I'll be able to use it for my blazer. I'm not feeling like my buttonholes are going to go that great on my blazer, I'll be honest. Oh, really, Walter? That's nice. I'm glad to hear it. Oh, real? A circle and triangle shape? Do you mean like the circle and triangle shape is a style, or is it a method? And see, it's a good, you know, point that like just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's the only way to do something or the best way. Hey Kurt, how's it going? Oh, that's pretty cool. You guys are watching together. Hello, Monica. That's pretty awesome. I love it. Well, this is my first time doing a bound buttonhole. I've never even practiced or sewn one. I thought I had, but I hadn't. Once I saw the steps, I was like, oh yeah, I haven't done that. So you're watching me struggle today. I'm hoping that afterward I'll be sewing the real ones and also bagging the lining on my blazer. I don't think that's a big enough piece. Well, it might be. A little fiddly, huh? Connie Crawford is the sewing book I just had out. Connie Almaden Crawford. That was probably, yeah. She was an instructor at my school. Okay, let's try one more. And this time we're going to be careful with our stitches. I don't like that you have to do this. Like, why couldn't I do this? Oh no, I can't do that either. Yeah, why can't I do this? Why not? Okay, and then we've learned that I need this to be about 7/8 of an inch. I love this needle. It's big and gigantic and easy to thread. All right. This normally gives such a precise line, but so this kind of proves how like thick this welt is, or weft is. It really did. That's funny. Streamlabs didn't like it, I guess. So if anything, you don't really want this to be any narrower than 3/8, but boy, this is a chunk of hunk. That is a chunk of hunk, like, opening, but you don't really want it to be any harder to sew. All right, so we're gonna use my trusty old Chaco liner with the chalk that doesn't go away. And I'm doing that because it's on the back side. So, all right, I got my stitches kind of down low. We're gonna count our stitches on the corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was just 5, right? Did you see my machine was a little eager? It was like, Derek, how's it going? Oh, it's a style. That's pretty clever. 1, oh no, I don't need to count these. Which is slid? Oh, my buttons, okay. Make sure I'm perpendicular. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, there we go. Okay. I really did just do that through this other marking here. I don't think I got my welt on here on the grain very well. I think you could probably use your buttonhole chisel if you have one for doing this. Should we try that? I have one. I hardly ever use it for buttonholes, to be honest. Let me go get something to do it on top of, though. Let's see. I mean, I guess I could use this. Why not? And this. Let's try the buttonhole chisel. I saw one tutorial where they used it to start off the slit, but they didn't continue to use it. So let's find out why. Right? Yeah, have you been busy, Derek? Derek, oh, I know why now. I instantly know why. And it's because you can't get into the corners without touching the rest of the welt. Unless you push it out of the way, maybe. So maybe this isn't the way. I'm able to get my welt out of the way though, so let's try. One more. I can't see because of the camera. All right, what's over here? God, I can't even see it. Did it, Debbie? That's awesome. I don't like it. I think it's cool, and I sometimes try it, but no matter how careful I am, I nick one thread. This is a chisel. It's a buttonhole cutter. It's very sharp. They give you this flimsy little plastic sleeve to protect things from it, but I lost that. I mean, it's in there somewhere, but yeah, so it's just a chisel, and this one says 12 millimeters. You don't see me use it because I don't usually do my buttons and buttonholes on camera often because it's on my home sewing machine. And I don't either recommend or not recommend it. I think it's just your style. Doesn't this look, this is the one I'm sewing, right? Yeah, this one instantly wants to lay flat, so that's a good sign. So the chisel kind of is nice. Yeah, right? Sometimes that's what I do because look at how sharp it is. You really can. On this one, it's not going to do it. I mean, I have to press pretty hard. But yeah, so it does make a nice clean cut. No, the other metal thingy. Oh, this? This is an antique iron. I use them as pattern weights. I have a hammer. I like this better. I try and use the hammer. I still like this better. I like this better for snaps too. And tack buttons. I don't know, there's something about it. It stays more level, and the hammer, because the strike surface on a hammer is so small, and no matter how hard you try to get the hammer straight up and down, it's at an angle. It can kind of glance things off the edge, especially something as small as like a tack button. I find this works a lot better. Rayanne she didn't think so. So, all right, so let's go and iron this. Yeah, you're right, Janice. It's an iron. You haven't seen it in a while because I was using it as a... Is it called a ballast when you are using it as kind of like a counterweight? I was using it as a counterweight in one of my overhead lights. Is that a ballast? Is that the proper term? Or maybe just counterweight? All right. All right, so, well, wait, I should be ironing my little hole better. Okay, so I don't see any of that little like troublesome fluff. Oh, wow, 3 groups. So okay, so the chisel gave me a really nice opening. What's that right there? Oh, that's not a fuzzy, okay. That gave me a very nice opening, look at that. With the clip-on, the handle was clip-on. Interesting. Yeah, so the weights I use on my pattern table are generally old irons. I have, like this one too, but yeah, in general, they're old irons. And I like them because the handle is so easy to grab, and I like the point so you can kind of get into the corner of fabric. I just find it, they work really good. And it's just kind of cool that it is, so meta with the sewing. And when you're buying weights, sometimes they can be really expensive to ship because they weigh so much. So it's not like these are cheap or, cheaper. They can kind of, it depends on your antique store. But definitely hold out for ones that aren't rusty. You don't want a rusty one, and you don't want, you want a handle, you want it to be flat. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, so let's see, oh, now I'm doing there. Look at that. This is so much better than that second or third one. Look at that. That looks pretty darn good, you guys. My canvas is so thick, though, it's kind of recessed. Let's get this little iron point there. All right, how are we feeling? Do we think like I could do it on my jacket now? I'm nervous. Okay, I don't see any trouble spots. Let's see how it works with my button. Well, I understand why it has the handle, but it's kind of cool that it's clip-on. The chisel definitely did the best one. I agree. I think that I will try that. All right, so I'm sewing across the little triangle. Pulling it pretty hard. I think things like this, when you have all these layers, like look at how thick this is. You know, you have all the canvas and you have that little triangle. The thing I try and think about is, now these aren't stitches that are in general are going to show on the right side, but you wouldn't want any of this to kind of pull into this opening here or out. So you want it to be straight up and down. So when I bend it back, you can see my little triangle lifts up. I want to pull this over. I don't want to distort it. I just want to make sure that it's straight up and down. And I think that'll make it look nicer. Like that one looks better than the other one. Because you see how on this side, you can see a little bit of that seam. That's my triangle right there. And this side looks way better. Look at that. That looks nice and tight. All right, this buttonhole looks like it won't fit my button. What do you guys think? This one looks the same size or smaller? I think it's smaller. Okay, it would work. It would work. Okay. So now the last part of this is that you have to cut your facing when it's sewn to the back of this. You have to cut and hand sew it down. I'm kind of dreading that part. You know? Oh, and the other thing I think was a good call was making it thinner with this inner facing rather than the weft. The weft is kind of thick and fuzzy. It's not thick, but there's just something about it that's kind of fuzzy. Whereas this is really smooth and it keeps my fabric a little bit thinner, I think. Yeah, right, Lynn? Exactly. Yeah, I do, Janice. Because I can be straight up and down. Whereas, you know, when you're kind of worrying the corners with your scissors like this, you might be also nicking fibers that you didn't really need to nick, you know? And I think that, I don't know why I got that weird little fuzzy on this right here, which is obviously a nicked thread of my canvas. See that? That could be in the corner and it's just deceptive. I can't tell. This one looks a lot better. I think that this would fly, especially this side. Right, Walter? Yeah, so that's the thing is like this kind of buttonhole, you know, is that you have to do it on the outer jacket, and then the lining jacket you have to hand stitch around this opening here. So what do you guys think? Do you think I'm ready? Oh no. I mean, you know me, I'm like, let's go. Let's do it. All right, the other thing I liked was using the clover on the back, so we're gonna do that. I don't have to hand sew. Ha ha. So we got our clover. We've got our, I already put the chisel back. And my ruler, my buttonhole facing. Let's put these away. So this is what I'm going to use to make my bound buttonhole. Nancy, how's it going? Chisel, chisel. All right. Who's nervous? Not me. A little nervous. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna cut this in half. So I have two. I'm also gonna cut this on the grain. I'm gonna true it up, in other words. You can see it really easily. I yesterday went through a lot of videos that I've recorded and I haven't edited for one reason or another. And one of them was when I got that black 2x1 rib for the hide sweatshirts and it was so cut badly. I was so frustrated that I made a video, and it was like after a Saturday stream. So in general, after, you know, streaming, I'm hungry, I eat, you know, I'm a little bit tired. Not tired, just a little bit like, it's just, you know, after being live, I got to kind of come down and kind of relax a little bit. And so sometimes I'll do something mindless, like cut something out that's not going to be a big deal, or tape a pattern together, or watch a gaming stream, or watch a show while I'm hand sewing something, or whatever, you know. And when I thought, okay, I'm going to cut my nephew's hide out because his is all black. I'm not going to sew it on camera anyway. And then this will be good to chip away at my stream for next week. And so when I saw that I wouldn't have enough rib for both jackets, I was really mad, and it was really, really, really off. I made a video. It was so ranty, and I was so upset. And I told myself, don't edit this right away. Just let this one sit. And I'm really glad I did, because I'll probably use parts of it because it's funny in a way to see me so upset. But at the same time, I'm really glad I haven't like put it out in the world. And I'm like, sorry, I'm thinking through now what I really want to say, because it's like that moment where I was so flustered that I was making sense, but I was making sense in a very like, you know, I would say 3/4 of my sentence and not really be finished, you know. So, but it was really funny going through all those videos. I have a whole like beginning sewing series that I kind of went through, and and a lot of them are my old studio, you know. So it was pretty funny. But that reminded me of it because I couldn't even cut straight in the video. Like I was like, I'm just so out of practice with cutting on grain, and I knew I would be, but I was just like, let me show you. You could do this, you know. It was pretty funny. So, and I do want to say that the next time I ordered from them, I put a message in this thing and I said, hey, I love you guys. I love your fabric selection. You guys get some of my absolute favorite fabrics around, and you get things that are really hard to find. I really appreciate it. But like, you guys are cutting things really crooked, and I really feel terrible saying this because I love you guys, but at the same time, like, I can't even make one of my projects, and you shorted me 4 inches on this one fabric that was $45 a yard, 3 inches on this other one that was $45 a yard, and then I lost 4 inches out of a half yard on this rib, and I can't even use it. Right, Nancy? Exactly, that's a good idea. That is actually kind of a fun idea. And they were really nice, and they were like, we're really sorry, you know, here's, you know, they gave me a 15% off coupon, which I was like, no, don't worry about it. It's cool. You know, I don't need a coupon. I just really wanted to say something because I can't not say something at this point, you know. And you've seen pictures. If you watch my Instagram stories, it's not something I'm gonna put on my grid, but I have been like, oh my gosh, you know. So it was pretty funny. Okay, so this is where I want my buttons, and I have a 3/8 inch seam allowance here. The overlap is, I think my center front is about right here. So let's do this from the back side. Let's do this from the back side. So I think that the center is a little bit further in on the actual pattern pieces, and I know that, but I'm just been trying this on and seeing where it fits and feels the best on me, and so that's what I'm gonna go with. It's also, putting these higher up. All right, let's just do this now. No more procrastinating. Let's just focus and get these buttonholes done. This is very common for me if I am dreading something. I used to be a procrastinator a long time ago, and there are definitely things I procrastinate on. Like, I'm not immune to that at all. Take the coupon. They're generous with coupons, so it's fine. So, yeah, right, Nancy? Yeah, I was very kind, and I flattered them at the beginning and the end. I was just like, literally 2 of these fabrics look like a machine cut it, not a real human. Like they were choppy. Like it was choppy. It wasn't barely choppy. It looked like they went like this. Took the fabric and went clip. I'm not kidding. It was bad. And I feel like partly they could have been because it was so busy and it was such a popular thing, but that doesn't, then you give extra, you know? So I don't think that I don't want extra. All I want is what I paid for. And if I measured those on their selvages, neither one was the amount I ordered, you know? So what are you gonna do, you know? And I'm sure I'm not the only one, but they're a pretty big player in the online fabric sales area. So, all right, so you can even see, like I have this little bit of slope here. So putting my buttonholes up high is a little bit too high, and here's my roll line. I'm sure if Cashmerette were watching, they'd be like, don't put your buttonholes up that high. But if you want to see this on me, here, let's look at it on me. I kind of like it up high. Okay. So this is where my pins are. Sorry, I know my microphone's under there. I think that, sorry, my microphone's under there. Sorry, guys. It's not a mirror. I can't look at it. Maybe I could do it a little bit lower. I'll go lower. Okay. Yeah, I think that they were just honestly like, it's been a really busy time for fabric stores, you know? That's a good question, Janice. I don't know, but I feel like it's been really manageable, to be honest. Especially if you're not sewing it live on camera. I think it's pretty manageable. The welts went really good. I thought they went really, really well. And so I think the things that most people would probably be hesitant to sew are the welts and bagging the lining. And wait till you see the bagging line. That is so easy to do, I promise. And you get to do it almost entirely with a machine. There's actually a way to do it entirely by machine through the sleeve. But I'm not going to do that because I think that might scare a few people off. But then you don't have to do any hand sewing. So take that, Walter. But yeah, you can sew a bag of lining completely. It would be really fun to do it. You know, you just leave a hole in your lining in one of the seams of the lining of the sleeve, and then you sew your entire lining of your jacket together and then you pull it through the lining of the sleeve, and then you can just edge stitch with the machine the hole of the lining. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. Right, Janice? I know. I know, and I get a lot of pushback. So my video, like my ranty video, was a lot about how it's possible to cut fabric on the grain, and it's better. It's better in so many ways. Like, you would have more fabric to sell people too, because you would be, well, it's the same. You'd have the same amount, but you'd actually be selling someone what they bought, you know. So anyway, all right. I put a vertical pin. What did I do with it? What the heck? Well, it was overlapped about this much. So I'm going to say that my center is about, if it's 2 inches in, right? It's actually here. So that would be 1 5/8, which is a fat 3/4 of an inch. That would be my center line. All right, so find your center line. That's the center line is where your blazers overlap. So if, let me draw this. So if, so, you know, when your blazer comes together, you know, like this is your right front and this is your left front. You can totally do it, Walter. And your buttons are usually sewn on this center line or like 1/8 of an inch to the left or right of it, depending on what you're doing. Your jacket obviously doesn't like meet, right? It has to overlap. And so it's the same amount on each side. In general, almost every project is like this. And so you need to line up those center lines. So that's our center front. So meaning if this garment were cut on the fold, this is where it would be. I'm going to have the, not a floppy hem, but I'm going to have the pleat at the bottom. That's so that you can move around. As long as it doesn't hang below the jacket, you're fine. Yeah, so that's what I'm looking for right here is this center line. That's what that is right there. And then your buttonhole usually goes towards the raw edge a tiny bit. So let's draw one line on this side. I'm going to do 1/8 of an inch past my center line. It's straight. I don't know what you're talking about. And then we've decided that my buttonhole is 7/8 of an inch. So we're going to draw a parallel line to this outer line at 7/8 of an inch. Get everything flat so it stops getting wonky. I really need to go up above my buttonhole too. So let's do that. 1/8 of an inch, or 7/8 of an inch. There we go. And then we're going to draw a perpendicular line. And then I put this one 2.5 inches below. But let's see how that looks. Is that what we want? Do we want it like 2.5 inches? Because that's kind of a big button. Let's do it 3. Okay. Procrastinating is getting less and less. So yeah, I was about to say about my procrastinating thing is that I'm one of those people that at a certain point in my life, it kind of tipped the other way where I kind of became like, whoa, let's do this. You know, I get like, I'm not going to have anxiety about this, you know, and then I just kind of attack it because I don't like dreading something so much. And I learned that when you're dreading something, what happens is if you say you have to do something and it's 3 weeks away as your deadline and you have all that time to do it, if you are dreading it for 3 weeks, this is my pep talk today. If you're dreading something for that long, like I get it. I dread things. I procrastinate. Trust me, I'm not immune to this. But on certain things, this kind of helps me motivate. I can either spend all of that time dreading it, so then you're in this like feeling of dread. It's kind of bugging you when you go to bed at night. It's bugging you when you wake up. It's bugging you when you see it sitting in the corner, whatever it is. Or you could just do it, and then it's done, and you spent less time dreading it, and the project, it's just better, right? It seems like so obvious, but it is one of those things that's what gets me through it. Like when it's starting to do that, like I see it, and I'm thinking of it when I shouldn't be thinking of it, then I'm like, I just sometimes like get up and go and do it because I hate it so much. So anyway. Oh, nice, Walter. Okay, so let's do this. So this is my buttonhole, right? And we need a 3/8 inch line on either side of my line there. This ruler, I wish I was using my other ruler, but I'm getting the hang of it. Oh, I have a funny ruler story. So I ordered rulers from Waywack the other day. Waywack is this online sewing supply place. It's great. Everyone here turned me on to it, and I'm super glad they did because it is really nice, and they ship things so freaking fast. It's amazing, right? So I ordered some see-through rulers, the kinds you see me always use, and they didn't have them. They back ordered them, which was fine. I didn't need them right away. I just knew I needed them in general. And so I ordered something a couple days ago. I needed some zippers for these jeans I'm sewing for Wardrobe by Me, and I added some rotary knife blades in there, and they shipped those and the rulers the same day. So I got the packages today, and the box that the rulers came in by themselves was this big. It was this big. It was huge. And it was stuffed with that brown paper, the crinkle paper, and then there were my 4 little skinny flat rulers at the bottom. I was like, wow, this person was having a day. And then my rotary knives were in like a bubble mailer in a separate thing. I was like, well, I think I've got our fire starter for the year. All right, so let's make sure this time I'm do better about putting this on the grain. So I'm going to kind of fold this up along one of these lines and kind of compare it to the grain line on the buttonhole welts. So that looks pretty good. And I've just got it centered on both sides. We'll pin it for, for looks. I've never gotten, I think I got a catalog a long time ago, but I don't get a catalog with my orders. I may have opted out of them. I don't want one every time. Right, Aisha? Exactly. My husband was like walking, he's like, oh, you got packages. And he walks by the windows with this massive box he can barely hold. And I was like, what is that? Did I accidentally order like a bolt of something? It would fit like 4 bolts. It was one of those kinds of boxes. When I showed him how much of the paper was in here, he just started laughing. It was pretty funny. This, yeah, so this is my little piece of fabric. It's this wide. It's kind of centered over that. All right, let's do this. All right, so this isn't the one where everything goes wrong, right? I am doing it through my roll line. You think that's a problem? Yeah, I do too. Okay, just stop thinking about it. What's my backup plan if all of this goes bad? Shoot, I don't know. I guess I could replace this whole piece and the welt pocket. Yeah, this isn't just not going to go wrong. This is going to be fine. All right, got my shorter stitch length. Perpendicular, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have so much stuff here. I need to move this. This is much bigger than my samples. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No oil. No oil. Pull my thread tail. Here we go. All right. Should I sew them both at the same time and just do them in tandem? I could, right? Because I don't want to lose my chalk. Got some thread. So why does one need 4 see-through rulers? Oh, I go through them. Like they get dull. Or the rotary knife will nick one. So yeah, it's just one of those. I used to buy them by a like a dozen when I was doing freelance pattern drafting, because they get, the edge can get kind of uneven and it won't draw a straight line then, you know. You don't need 4, I'm pretty sure. But you know, they're not like they're not as hard as some of those quilting rulers are. Those things don't really get dull like that. All right, I'm trying to make sure I'm on the same line as this one here. 1, 2, 3, ooh, 4, 5. Stop being so jumpy. I don't want this to touch anything under here. It's why I'm kind of being protective. Okay. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. All right, now we chisel, right? Let's look at my box too. She likes, I think you like to trace off your pattern. Plus she's got the letter low system, so she's making patterns. These boxes look kind of like, this one looks a little different than this one. Do you see that? Just kind of seeing if they're sewn on the grain, because I think that'll make a difference. Like that corner, you know. All right, so let's draw a line here. I don't really like the way this box looks. It measures right, but, you know. What did I do with my weight? Oh, it's right here. I'm in try hard mode. I knew that wasn't all the way cut. I could kind of tell. Could you hear that? That would be some serious ASMR. That sound where the chisel's cutting the fabric. Okay, 2 more. Blade is so sharp. Doesn't get used much either. Okay. So I'm gonna make sure. Sometimes I'll use my seam ripper to cut these, but I didn't really want to take a chance on that. All right. Okay. Right, Janice, I know. That's interesting, Nancy. I know, it sounds good, isn't it, Debbie? It's just kind of like yeah, it's so satisfying hearing it cut the fibers. I look for stuff to buy on there, Nancy, and I'm pretty happy, like, most of the time I'm like, I don't need any of this stuff, you know, so. All right, so let's pull these through. That looks pretty good. Look at that. I mean, look at that. I don't even have to press it. The chisel is so good, but it really, really dangerous that you're going to cut through the welts. I mean, that was the scary part, right? Now all the rest of this is just up to my skills as a hand sewist, which that's actually the worst part. All right, let's iron that. Nice, Lynn. Right, Terry? Woohoo! All right. Yeah, it kind of pained me to buy the rotary blades there. Like, I think, like, the prices are kind of meh when it comes to the rotary blades. But what I could have saved somewhere else would have been the shipping costs, so that's how I rationalized it. And I like supporting them, you know? Okay, you guys. Where's my cheerleaders? No. This part I feel like this is where I could practice more, is folding these. There's probably a better way that I'm forgetting how they did. But let's also just iron a lot of this. I want it to be nice and flat. Yeah, and they don't sell their blades in a pack of 10, which is how I like to do it. I like to buy 10 at a time. That's the best price usually. I don't find that, I just use like the Olfa blades too. I never get the off-brand ones. I don't find that those are really that great. We experimented a long time ago with it and didn't find any advantage. We found that they didn't last longer. One time I got a whole package that I'm pretty sure were compromised from the beginning too. Okay. So you want these to be nice and straight, but also equidistant. Oh no, there's a fuzzy there. Shoot, that's not good. That's not good. That's not a fuzzy. Phew. I have a fuzzy there. So one of the tutorials, I think it was the Chinese woman who she did a really excellent tutorial, but the reason I watched hers was that it was for bulky fabrics. She uses glue. And she actually stitches around the edge as well with like a decorative stitch. So that's not what I was gonna do. Oh no. I might have to hand sew that. Shoot. I wonder what happened. I think what happens is the canvas is so loosely woven that when I cut into the corners, even if I don't cut past the line, what's happening is one of the little threads, since it's been cut, is pulling out. That is one of the technical terms for these, is lips. I'm going to definitely use the term welt. Hey, Sand Dollar, how's it going? Nancy. It's kind of a Nightmare Before Christmas all over again. Is that what you're thinking? Okay, it looks pretty good except for that little spot right there. And it is right here. Yeah, it didn't cut through or anything. I kind of want to look at this. I don't want to hurt it though. But yeah, that is what it is. It's just like the fiber is just so relaxed that just pulls right out of the stitch, or of the seam, because it gets cut. Yeah, right, Terry? Yeah, I mean, I didn't cut past. I used small stitches, but you can see this is all interfaced canvas, and it's so thready. So it's a little tricky to deal with anyway. All right. You guys, come on. I'm the one having to do it. Okay, so let's see. There's my little fuzzy. I don't have any of that glue people use. Yeah, so that's what it is. If I sew it with my machine, it'll make my square the wrong size. Look at that. I can totally get rid of it though. Oh, sorry. I'm on the wrong thing there. Okay, so yeah, so there we go. Here's my thing. So there's that little fuzzy, but look, I can tuck it in there. It's not going to stay though. And if I re-sew this, the buttonhole would be the wrong size. Like it would be asymmetrical. So yeah, we're just going to have to use a few stitches. The canvas is just too open weave for that. All right, so let's stitch down these triangles. And we're going to pull and make these all nice and straight. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's do this one now. This one has the roll going through it. I'm kind of going like just to the left of the stitching along that triangle. And then when I get to the blazer, I go off, you know, like I go off of the thing there, off the triangle. Like I get out of the blazer area. Yeah, frayed check. I don't have any of that. I should probably have some handy. Now that I've kind of gone to the dark side of fusibles and starch. You guys have all corrupted me. Just kidding. It's interesting because I watched this one video of Kenneth D. King sewing. I didn't actually watch it. I was looking for a video of him or a tutorial from him on bound buttonholes. And he probably has one in a class somewhere. Good for him. Not giving it away for free on the internet. And I saw one of the things, well, I can't remember what he was sewing, but he starts off with saying, you know, a lot of people don't think I use fusible interfacings, but I do. And I just, you know, use good ones. I like the certain kind, and I feel like that's me. I feel like I never liked fusible interfacing. I was kind of a little bit biased towards it because I didn't really like gluing my garment. And then I discovered the woven stuff, and I really love it, the way it looks, and I like the way it performs. So I feel a lot less snobby about it now, and I like the way it looks. All right. Bound buttonholes are in. That's so freaking annoying right there. What's also annoying is that how that end looks a little wider, but it's not. It's like an optical illusion. This one looks so tiny. I'm so scared. Okay, no problem though. Phew. All right, did it. Right, Nancy? That'd be awesome. Oh, really, Nancy? Yeah. Okay. It's gonna leave this extra. Let's just cut some of it off a little bit. I didn't end up sewing my welt shut. It's a good idea to do that. Okay, what time is it? It's 1 o'clock. Well, see, this one looks a little wonky. They're okay. I mean, for my first welts ever, brown buttonholes, look at that. That really shows up on camera. Huzzah! Do we think this thread matches? This thread's a little too heavy, you know? I feel like I can do better as far as hand stitching it. Ooh, maybe that one. Oh, that might be a little light. Awesome possum. Yeah, I think that one will work right there. These are all the silk weights. So I don't really want to use that. Well, maybe I would. That's too light, huh? I need something that matches perfectly. I need that thread card y'all talk about from way back. What about a gray? No. These are too lavender. Maybe we could do one step of the bagging the lining just so we can get it going. So I think this is too light. you know. So these, all of these are for when I sewed those silk kimonos for Heather Ross. That's how old they are. Although green is the lighter weight thread, you have to have this really tiny thread to be able to go through the smaller needles. So if you're ever using small needles like size 8s and lower, you have to have really small thread. It's kind of a bummer. Those are cheap boxes from Joann Fabrics. They're made by Sulky. And then what's great is I can hang them on the wall, you know. They only hold this size though. I got these from Joann Fabrics a long time ago, and they come apart really easily, so you can just hang them, you know, on the wall. That's what I used to do. I used to just put 2 nails right here, and I would hang them on the wall. But it is really convenient to have them in here because they stay so tidy. But you can't put the fat spools. So if you are using really big spools, you can't fit those in here. I'll show you. I have one right here. Like this. These don't fit in here. See? So just know that if they make it for this and this is the kind you use, you need a bigger type. But I organize mine by type. These are the ones that are a bit dodgy. These are decorative, so I hardly ever use those. These are all thick right here. I forgot I had these because it's kind of like a pale green cap. This was for a project, and there were just so many of the same color, I just left them in here. And then these are all for the sewing silk. Or it's not that it's for sewing silk, it's for using a small needle. Yeah, and then the other one is just like regular old thread. And then I just do it by rainbow. This is all I have though. Have you guys ever thought about getting like one of the big thread, you know, like a big thing, like the stands? Did I get out of town recently? No. I haven't been out of town. I did go this summer. This one needs to be pressed a little bit and then it won't be wonky. All right, so I did it. Okay. I feel pretty good about those for my very first ever bound buttonholes. And you know, the button's going to cover it. There's your backup plan, right? So the button is going to cover up your buttonhole for the most part. It's going to sit over here more though. So of course that little fuzzy is in that corner there. But I am going to take a few threads and I mean, maybe I'll just use this. I do want to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. You know, I'll just use one strand, but this thread's a little bit thick. That's why I didn't really want to use it. I have half a mind to pull out one of these threads and use it. Why not, right? It's so thready, I could. Look at this. Maybe that's what I should do. No, it's slang about yeah, maybe I should just use this thread here from the actual fabric. Because you could go like this. I could go, let's see. Let's try. I don't know if the eye of this needle is not big enough. Where'd that other one go? Oh, here it is. This one. This one. So when you have to use a really, I can find a longer piece, but if you only have this kind of length thread, the trick is to put your needle all the way through, then thread it, and then pull it through. In other words, like if you had to tether this to one end, right, you don't really have enough length to sew. Just don't thread the needle till the last second. That's the trick, you know. So maybe I'll get a longer piece of that thread and cover up this stitching here. Do you think that's ambitious? I'm not a weaver. But it's bugging me. I really want to like tame it right now. Let's see if I can do a little bit. I don't know, you guys. I may have to do this off camera so I can think about it. This is such riveting content today. See, that already looks a little better. All right, yeah, I'll do this later. Cool, but that does look better. Doesn't that look crooked? All right, let's not think about it. My first ones. All right, so the next step in this is to bag the lining. And the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna put your jacket right sides together and we're gonna sew the collar together. So before I streamed today, I kind of touched up all my ironing. I touched up my ironing of my neckline where you, this is kind of foreign to me that you open up the collar seam. So I didn't yet, Nancy. I think I will though. You know, I just used some of my thread for my machine for now because I need a bigger eye and I need a longer piece of that. But I think I will try that. Because I think even if it doesn't, I don't do a very good stitch, I think it will blend in better, you know, and be stronger. So we'll see. So I'm going to match up your whole collar area here. And remember, you have your circle marks here. I think this is probably the most awkward part of doing the lining is attaching the collar part of it. So we'll just do a little bit. I mean, I'm tempted to do the whole thing. You guys are down. Right? Yes, I know. I know. All right, so I'm going to start from the center of the collar, and I'm kind of following the instructions in the Cashmerette. So I'm not doing anything tricksy here. But I talk about this a lot when sewing collars, that in anything where, or necklines and things, sometimes it's better to start from, you know, one, like either start from the middle and go out, and then do the same thing from the middle and go out. And that way, if you have any kind of, it just kind of makes it look symmetrical better, you know? Let's move all this stuff. Especially the chisel. I used to always have my little cart to my right, which was more convenient, but I kept tripping over it on my way to the serger. So I'm going to start from the center. And this is a 3/8 inch seam. So a lot of this blazer is sewn with a 1/2 inch seam, but not the lining to the jacket. Oh, I have my stitches are a little bit too short. So I'm only going to go to the neckline. So 3/8 inch seam. Here's a nice long thread. Maybe I'll save this one here. I'll put that in my pen cushion. And I'm going to go to this mark right here where that circle was. And they recommend putting your stitch length down pretty small right here, doing a 45-degree angle. they say that you're gonna get a much sharper point there, and I'm totally down to try that. I think that's great. Open up that edge there, and we're gonna sew to the circle. Don't go past your already stitched lines either, because you'll get a pucker. You know what I mean? Like, I've definitely learned that with things like this. Don't overdo it. All right, and so see, I have a kind of a little bit of a not sharp point there. All right, and now we're gonna do the same thing on this side. Center out. Smaller stitch length. That is something we did at the factory when not where I worked, but when I would take things to the factory to be sewn. One of the first factory I worked with my needle cases taught me, they were like, oh, you know, if you really want these corners to not be sharp, you know, they rounded them in this way that was pretty tricky. It was not tricky, but it was so clean. I loved it, and it kind of taught me about, like, all right, even though you want it to be a corner, maybe sometimes it's better to not treat it like a corner. You'll get a nicer finish. All right, so let's see how I did there. Oh, that's pretty good. All right. All right, so I'm going to check and see how my point is before I sew anymore. I think I might want to trim that. I don't want to trim it quite yet, though. But I think we'll get a nice point. All right, so let me look at the instructions. Hey, Sydney, how's it going? Ah, that's nice to get to hang out with your parents. All you missed was me doing 2 bound buttonholes. That's it. I've spent 2 hours doing that. All right, yeah, so we have our collar. Yeah, it doesn't say we're going to trim that. I really want to, though. I'm going to trim it a little bit. Reduce some of that bulk. Yeah, so I need to get rid of some of that bulk because then it just folds up on itself. Oh, look at that. Let's get rid of those too. Even clipping into it will help a little bit too. Because then these things can kind of go like this. They can overlap. Let's just clip a little bit. All right, and now we're going to sew down the center front. And the same thing, we're going to start at that circle there. And they have a tip that, you know, make sure that you don't have to close this hole here. You can leave a little stitch open. It's better to have to hand stitch it closed than to over stitch it and go past. No, it was my first time ever doing bound buttonholes, so, you know, I spent some time working on it. Yeah, you should, Sydney. All right, so let's see. I can see it better on this side. So I'm going to start from the bottom and go up. Oh, one of the things I was supposed to do too is iron up this hem first. The jacket's getting a little bit kind of unwieldy too. You know, I was just thinking about my buttonholes too. I may need to, well, I may need to cut the facing kind of in the middle of sewing these buttonholes, or sewing this, so that I can finish around the buttonholes. You know what I mean? All right, so we're going to start at the seam of this facing edge. Three-eighths here as well. Do a nice smooth curve. Don't stop. When you're sewing curves like that, don't stop. Try and just keep going because you'll get a smoother curve. Loosen up my presser foot pressure. This all matches really perfectly, but because it's thicker and I think my stitch length is still a little bit too short, it's pushing my fabric, so I just want to make sure it doesn't get off while I'm doing this. All right, so I'm going to pivot at this corner here. I'm a little bit off. And one of the other tips is you sew this as a curve, this top lapel here, which I find really interesting, so I'm going to give it a shot. And I'm not really sure, like there's not a whole lot of direction on doing it. I'm just going to sew a curve here. Like that. That's not a very smooth curve though, is it? All right. I don't think mine's as drastic as the ones they show in the pictures. Hey, Libby. Oh, cool. Yeah, what's Thread Crate? Yeah, didn't those turn out great? My sister was like, they love them, they fit, they're super excited, which made me so happy. I was really glad that they like them and that they fit. Oh, and I was supposed to, I think, do a little 45-degree angle there too. All right. So, and let's clip this curve down here. These scissors are a little bit, too sharp. Clip this curve. We don't need any mishaps now, right? More clips, the better curve you'll get. Because think of it like if you had to draw a circle with a bunch of straight lines, the more straight lines you put, the smoother your circle is going to be. So it's the same idea. And we'd much rather not have to draw a circle with straight lines anyway, right? I have all these random threads in here. Oh, this is from the fabric. Okay. Like, geez. You know me, I'm like a chronic thread trimmer. Okay, wait. Tell me more about the brown sugar oat milk thingy. I don't like lattes. Is it coffee? I like coffee. I just don't like lattes. It's too milky. I know oat milk isn't milk, though. So. Oh, I didn't understitch my collar. Shoot. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I forgot to understitch my collar. All right, so we're going to understitch the collar. So now remember, your under collar is the one that's sewn to the jacket, the outer jacket, okay? So you need to push the seam allowance towards the jacket. Can't believe I almost forgot to do that. Goodness me. All right, so we're going to do it about 4 inches, I think is what they say, from the edge there. So not for very long. But yeah, press your seam allowance towards the jacket body on your collar. Because your top collar is sewn to the lining since it folds out and faces the robe. Seam allowance, making sure that seam allowance was like pressed open. It felt a little lumpy for a second there. This way, when the collar folds on the right side, see it's going to pull your top collar and kind of roll it to the underside like that. See that? They called it an espresso milkshake. Wait, it is Starbucks. Yeah, it is. So is it really a milkshake? I'm so down for that. I'm so down for that. I really wanted a milkshake yesterday when we got burgers. Sorry, I'm not being very methodical about this. Let's see here. This is my, we don't really turn all this out quite yet because we need to sew our lining completely. But you do want to make sure, look at that, I got a little fuzzy there. What is that? You do want to make sure though that you're going to get a good smooth point. What is that fuzzy? Okay, it's just a fuzzy sewn into the seam. Gosh, this fabric, man. At least I know I can pull on it because I was a little nervous there. I mean, I do feel like that is partly because of my needle perforating the stitch. You know? I have really small stitches right there too. My needle's not perforating stitch, it's perforating the fibers of the fabric, sorry. See that? What is that nonsense? Ah, look at that, it's a whole thread. Wow. Okay, let's pull that from this side. There it is, right there. My fabric is just so thready. Heart attack central, right? Okay, so I do have a little gap there. Oh, it's not sewn yet. This side is. All right. This one's sewn. Here's my curve. Just checking things out, that's all. I think I'll probably trim this before I press it, because even though I clipped it, you can still see it's kind of lumpy. So if I trim it down, it'll be a little less lumpy. Not immortalize any of these inside the jacket. All right, so what I'm thinking about right now is just looking at where my buttonholes are going to be, because I still need to sew this seam, and then I'm going to have to position the facing and cut around the buttonhole in order to finish the inside edge, right? So that the buttonhole goes through to the facing. And I'm a little nervous about that. That's probably the worst part in my opinion. All right, so I'm going to sew this first. hate it when I bonk the microphone like that, sorry. And remember at the top here, they recommend doing a kind of a curve right here along the lapel. I don't know if that was enough of a curve. I'm a little nervous about it. I've gotten the needle sharp box. That was really, really good. I can't recommend that one enough. That one is a really good subscription box. Lots of options. Plus you know what you're gonna get. It's not a mystery, which I think is huge. And there's lots of price points. There's even boxes if you don't really want to get a subscription box. You can just, I'm sorry, I keep blocking the... I'm going to trim down my buttonhole a little bit more here. I don't want to catch it in the seam. My interfacing is lifting up a little bit there. Why is this interfacing not staying fused? Oh, look at my lining right there. I need to sew that. All right, so I'm going to probably stop here. And so these are the things I'm going to work on off camera. So I'm going to figure out where these holes are on the facing. I'm going to reinforce that one little fuzzy edge of my buttonhole, that little corner, right? And then I'm going to, and the ways that I think of doing this are, you know, poking in through to the other side. Like, you have to be precise. You're going to have to figure it out. And then making sure that your buttonhole on this side is in the right spot. And then you cut into that. And then you turn it back and hand stitch it around the back of your buttonhole. It doesn't look that great, to be honest. But what you could do is turn it right side out, press all this, get everything where you want it, and then find your buttonhole. Like, I'm going to really, you know, make sure these are all positioned right. And then, yeah, stick your pin through 4 corners. Find your 4 corners here, and then you know where your buttonhole box needs to be. And then you're going to make a slit and turn it back. I think I'll probably do something more like the shape of this. I mean, what's to stop me from taking a really thin piece of fabric and sewing a box just like I did here, pulling it, pressing it, and then just stitching that down with some stitches? I think that might look a little nicer. I feel a little more comfortable doing that, but I don't know if that would really be like the recommended way to do it. All right, so let's clip this curve. Let's see, the other thing I'm gonna do, there's one other thing I was thinking about doing. I'm gonna do that. I'm just going to make sure I have everything the way I want it, honestly. I'm going to kind of go around. I'm going to press this right sides out, check out my, oh my gosh, I just cut that so close to the curve. Look at that. Holy heck. Oh my God. I might have to change where that curve is. Eek. Eek. Doesn't look that narrow on this side. I'm just going to make sure everything looks good before I continue. But look at how nice the curve is when you cut that close. You don't even have to clip. Man. There's the argument for that. Look at that curve, looks so much nicer than this one. And I clipped the heck out of this one. Look at that. Well, I trimmed this one to get down, so that helped. There we go. That looks pretty good. And then we'll continue sewing the last step of the bottom and then our sleeves, and then just doing all the finishing. We're gonna do some stitching at the collar here. We're going to stitch the two collars together here along the neck. So we'll do that too. So I'm just gonna make sure everything's looking good. And I'll hand sew my buttonhole facing back there. It's looking pretty good though. Sew sampler. That's a quilting box. That's pretty cool. I think this will be a good opportunity as well when you're stitching when I'm stitching this facing to the back of this, to kind of maybe futz with it a little bit and make sure it looks a little more straight and symmetrical. Cool. I think that looks pretty good though. Here's my lapel. Let's see about that curve. Kind of curious, you know? It's gonna be interesting. What's that thread right there? Was it a stay stitch? Yeah, so I'm gonna fuss with all this stuff. So my little hole closed there. I have a thread there I need to fix. This is looking good though. I'm pleased with all this. This is definitely going really smoothly. Yeah, I could probably tighten up this back stitch right here. That's what that is. It's like I didn't back stitch, which who, me? Oh yeah, Mafio. Yeah, I mean, I and you know, when I watched a tutorial on it, I realized that I had never sewn one. So I learned today, which was kind of cool, you know. So these are my first ones, but I agree. I think I'm really glad I did too. It would have felt weird to stitch a buttonhole on my jacket for some reason, you know. There we go. That's fine now. All right. Oh, she's looking pretty. Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to take this to the iron. Let me briefly look over the instructions. Make sure I didn't leave you in a weird spot. We're so at the end. Yeah, so I'm on page like 30. Oh yes, I need to understitch my center front seam where I just sewed. And there is one thing they note, they say, you know, grade the seam allowances, which means you're going to make the seam allowances, you know, different widths from each other. Let me show you. So I thought this was a really clever tip. So you're going to grade your seam allowances, which means that one half of your seam allowance is narrower than the other one. And so they say, you know, grade these differently above the roll line and below the roll line so that you're going to make it fall nicely. And so I think on this one, above the roll line, you trim the blazer seam allowance shorter. And then once you get to that roll line and below, you trim the front facing narrower. Because what you're trying to do is make it so that it wants to go the direction it's going and lay nicer. Nancy's thinking through. She's like, wait a minute. Maybe I shouldn't get rid of that. All right, what was the other thing? Yeah, and that'll leave us at sewing. Because all I have to do is sew the bottom of the seam as far as attaching the bagging the lining. Like literally, you sew right sides together, 1/2 inch seam. That's it. I just want to make sure everything's going good, and I want to sew my buttonhole facing behind there before I do some of these finishing things, because it's kind of a now or never. So this is all on page, I'm leaving you on like page 31 right now. This is pretty exciting. I kind of want to press, but I'm going to do these things. I want to make sure I get it right. And we have a whole nother sewing. I think there's 2 on the calendar, honestly. It's looking pretty good, though. Endurance blade. What's an endurance blade? What's an endurance blade for? Is that a rotary? Like a titanium blade? What's it called? Sampler? I might check that out. Cool. Well, this was an adventure. What do you guys think? Do you guys think you would do a bound buttonhole? Mine are okay. That one little fuzzy I have right there. But this looks pretty good for my first ever, right? That looks like it's potential fuzzy, so I may just reinforce my corners just to make sure, because I'm not cutting into them. It's just this stupid fabric, you know? So, yeah. We survived! Wow, Janice, you're such a funny person. Oh, thank you, Walter. I'm pleased. I'm pretty pleased, yeah. These don't look as straight as I'd like. Yeah, right, Libby? Yeah, you really can. The lighting's pretty good today. I agree. I remember thinking, oh, it's not as pink. You know, like it didn't turn everything pink. It looks pretty good. There is sun today, too. But yeah. It's a rotary blade. That's pretty cool. All right, next week I am sewing something really easy, which is awesome. I'm me doing the Ryan Raglan, which is a men's Raglan t-shirt by 5 out of 4 patterns. But the things I'll be doing different, are really not different, but I'm going to be making it in a sweater knit. So it's a nice cozy sweater, like a pullover Raglan sweater in 2 different colors. And I'm going to be using my serger and cover stitch because, yeah, right? And then next Saturday, we'll do our last sewing. You think so, Terry? Did I pass the test? It's okay. It does look like a little mouth. Hello. Give me that button. You know? Thank goodness my button will cover it up. Let's see. Yeah. I'm glad I'm finally using these. I'm trying to remember where I got them. I feel like it was at Castaway. Castaway in Santa Rosa. Survived. All right, cool. Well, that's it for today. So, like I said, some of the things we're going to be doing are, like the last step, if you're just kind of eager to go, is, you know, right sides together. You are going to sew across the bottom. You're going to leave an opening at the center back to pull your jacket through. And then you're also going to sew your sleeve lining to your sleeve, right sides together. And you kind of, you know, do this through the hole that you leave down here at the bottom. Don't twist your sleeve and your sleeve lining. Triple check because it's really easy to do. And I make it like a no-brainer for myself. I actually put the sleeve in the sleeve, put sleeve lining in the sleeve, right? And make sure it's all lined up in there. This is the way I just do it, so I make sure I'm not going to, you know, flub it up, right? And then I will pin one of them, pin it, you know, in a spot. Like I'm like, all right, there's that seam goes to that seam. I pin it together, and then I pull it through and put it right sides together. Awesome, Catherine. I'm really glad. Yeah, I think that is why I did it, because I'm not typically a sewist that does this kind of tailoring. I don't sew tailored stuff. I sew pretty much streetwear, you know, like anything you're going to wear just walking around. I think that that's what's great is that, yeah, I know that I sew a lot and I have some skills, but this isn't my skill set. So I feel like anyone can do this. And you're watching me learn how to do it. So, yeah, I think anyone can do it as long as you're pretty confident in your sewing skills and you're not trying to learn some of those basic things, you know. Awesome, Terry. Yeah, I love doing those cargos. My husband wears those all the time. He needs more pairs, but I'll probably wait until spring to make them because now it's becoming jean weather. I am making him a pair of jeans next week, not on camera for you guys, but the sew along will be on the Wardrobe by Me site eventually because she's coming out with some new jeans for men and women. So they're pretty spiffy. Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks for coming, you guys. Good luck on your blazer and your lining. You got this. If you did bound buttonholes, good job, good job. Right? They may not be perfect, but they're done. So I will see you guys Wednesday to sew the men's shirt. And after that, I'm making the Fairfield button up. I was thinking about doing the one by Wardrobe by Me because I've never sewn it before. Right, Janice? Oh, yeah. And I'm not even doing all the, like, really classic techniques. You know? So, you know I'm a bit of a cheater. Got to know where you can cheat. Yes, Libby, get caught up because I'm going to finish next week. You're going to want to finish with me. No pressure, though. I think Barbara, too. I think she's just cut hers out, right? Lynn's almost done. Lynn's is looking good. She's posted it in the Facebook group. I love the plaid. Terry's is coming along, too, right, Terry? I think you already finished yours, didn't you? Men's shirt, which one? I'm going to be doing, well, I have to sew 3, Derek, and I was going to do the Fairfield button up by Thread Theory. Hi, Martina. Thank you. I appreciate it. I was thinking about getting the one from Wardrobe by Me, though, to have another men's shirt in the, you know, in all the things we've sewn. So we could do that. Coming, not finished yet? All right, Terry. You got this. I know you got this. It's me we got to worry about. What do you think, Derek? Which pattern were you going to do, Derek? And Derek, even if you don't do the one I did, if you want to do I have videos on how to do collar stands. If you need any help on any of that stuff, I don't know where you're at. I imagine you don't need any help on any of that stuff. And I also have 2 different shirt sleeve placket videos. One is the like classic bias one. Awesome, Derek. Okay, cool. Yeah, there's some funny things about that pattern. Make sure you read when it says to put it face down and when to put it face up because I've sewn my sleeves inside out and backwards on that shirt twice. I've made so many of that shirt, and there's something about how the pattern's printed that I always do it backwards. So, yeah, it's a nice shirt. So maybe I'll stick with that. But yeah, I have sewn that a bunch of times on the camera, Derek. Nice, Janice. That's awesome. That makes me so happy. Yeah, is it one of those things where you're like, I got to see how hard that is. Can I do it better? Try and pick a fabric that cooperates better. You know? The one in the threads, and if you guys want the links here, I'll put the links to the threads one that I used. So, because she uses like really stiff cotton, thin, stiff cotton, like you get at the fabric store when you are testing out a machine. No one makes a garment in that, so it looks really easy in there. Yeah, so Derek. So there's 2 shirt sleeve placket, the tower placket, the long column placket kind, and then the standard bias one, and the cuff as well. So. Yeah, and watch the pattern placement because I cut it so that I had a left front and a right front reversed, and I had to recut them. So it was kind of a bummer. I had enough fabric, thankfully. Well, I cut the placket off one and made it the other one because thankfully that fabric was the same on both sides. But yeah. All right, I'll see you guys Wednesday. Have a good one. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the fall weather, and I'm going to go get that espresso shake. Bye, guys.